So welcome to this lecture. This lecture comprises of discussion of various research methods used in ergonomics. So in the previous lecture we discussed about various tools and techniques used for ergonomic assessment. So here some of the tools, or we can say that the philosophical manner of what are the research methodologies which are here to perform any research which is basically based on ergonomics. So in series with that, so as far as previous lecture is concerned, we covered various tools and techniques for ergonomic assessment. So basically if we start with the research, so research is basically two kinds of research are there: basic and applied. So in this basic research, the development of theory, principles and findings that generalized over a wide range of people, task and settings. As an example, like a series of studies we can take as an example that test the theory that as a people practice a particularly activity hundreds of times, so it becomes automatic and no longer takes conscious effortful cognitive processing. And this applied research can be defined as the development of any theory, principles that are basically those findings are relatively specific to a particular population and task, and it is basically related to some kind of application. That may be application, may be the development of any product or any system. So there is a slight difference between this basic and applied research. So there are various research methodologies used in ergonomics. So most important and most frequently used technique is survey and questionnaire. So most of the researchers measure a number of variables and evaluate about the relation of each other. In most of the cases, behavior of the workers are recorded while performing the task under various circumstances. So there are situations where conclusion is made on the basis of surveys and relevant questionnaire. So the goal of scientific research is to describe, understand and predict the conclusion made by predicting the relationship between variables. So in that context, researchers use many descriptive methods which are tools and techniques for ergonomic assessment. So the first kind of research method is survey and questionnaire, and second is experimental research methods, so in which systematic analysis of risk factors is one of the experimental research methods. So those methods are HIOP and DST, etc. So another kind of research methodology is ergonomic product design evaluation research. So while designing a product or any system, the sequence of operation is: first we have to understand the need by the designer by involving user input. So involvement of user is essential throughout the design life cycle for meeting the actual requirement. Second is setting and implementation of guidelines in design. Iterative usability testing beginning early in the design process. So the product design evaluation can be simplified as: we have to first understand the user, design and then evaluation. So in that context, this particular figure is showing the cycle of system development. Here in this we can say that those understand the user, design and then evaluate. So understanding is the first criteria, second is then design and then evaluation. So this whole cycle is for system development. So in understanding what factors come, so error criticality we have to understand, user patterns, goal functions and task, user characteristics and expertise and operating environment. So these are all 5 factors we need to understand before initiating the system development, and then theoretical framework is defined. If before initiating its manufacturing of any particular work system, so modeling and simulation is performed, mental models have been generated, principles and guidelines have been assigned, and dialogue styles and standards, and then we come to the evaluation where the heuristic evaluation, usability test and test and evaluation is carried out. So in that particular generalized cycle of system development, so as the technological advancement is taking place, newer products are appearing. So we can take any product for an example, and we can as a reverse engineering we can analyze that particular part, and from where it has started and from where what is the current state of that particular product is. So with the help of reverse engineering we can analyze and we can adopt the methodologies for generating a new system or any product. So the requirement of designing a product is it should have a user friendly, it should be user friendly and equipped with sophisticated design. So we can take any example in our surrounding, like keyboarding system including neat keyboard design, or mouse design we can take, chair design we can take an example, any hand operated device. So for example we can take these, or obviously computer workstation we can choose in order to analyze the product and its related aspects in order to understand the system development. So that's why this particular example I have put for you, in order to take any particular example and check its development which has been performed in the course of time. So another thing that we need to understand, that research which has been done in the ergonomic area, especially in anthropometric area, that kind of anthropometric scaling technique have been developed. So in that context we can take this this particular figure as an example to understand what this anthropometric scaling technique is all about. So this, if you are seeing conveniently, this is SH, this is a stature height. So here this particular example is giving anthropometric scaling technique. It is used when designing for users whose anthropometry is unknown. Sometimes we deal with a subset of a general population, in which case a scaling technique can be used to simple proportional estimate of body dimension. So let's say if we have to, like stature height is defined as 1800, and now you have to predict the mean standing elbow height. So in that series, how will you calculate? So this ratio is defined as a scaling law, so that you can take help, and with the help of this, mean standing height can be predicted with the help of total stature height. So here you can multiply with the factor, and you will get the exact mean standing elbow height for a general person. So this particular figure is showing the linear body dimension expressed as a percentage of stature. So in this way, the techniques have been explored for performing research. So this anthropometric scaling technique is one of the kind of research technique through which the particular proportion or particular height or length can be predicted on the basis of this proportion that has been estimated by previously by some researcher. So in general, when we perform any experiment, so there is a generalized steps that we need to follow. So like in any if we take example of analysis of any ergonomic system, so in research, as far as experimental research methods are concerned, so there are several steps in conducting an experiment. So those steps I am defining here, so that in a general way that can be taken as tool for performing or conducting any experiment in regards with designing any workstation or any ergonomic system. So here basically there are 5 steps in conducting an experiment. So this particular experiment involves looking at the relationship between casual independent variable and resulting changes in one or more dependent variables, which are typically measures of performance, workload, preferences, or other subjective evaluation. So the first step in steps in conducting any experiment first we define problem. And hypothesis. So in that defining a problem and hypothesis, researcher first hypothesize a relation between a number of variable and then sets up experimental design to determine whether a cause and effect relationship does in fact exist. So in order to define the cause and effect relationship, this particular hypothesis is defined in the form of defining number of variables existing in that particular problem. The second is specify the experimental plan. So in that specifying the experimental plan consisting of identifying all the detail of the experiments to be conducted. So in that defining the independent variable is an important part of creating the experimental design. So which independent variable do we manipulate and how many levels of each? For example, we might decide to examine the performance of 3 groups of workers, those on a day shift, on a night shift, or in between alternating and those alternating between shifts. So this things we have to define as an independent variable. And the third is we have to conduct the study. So the researchers obtain participants for the experiment, develop material, and prepares to conduct the study. Like if a particular person is unsure of any aspect of the study, so it is difficult to perform a very small experiment, a pilot study, so before conducting the entire real study. So after everything is checked through a pilot study, the experiment is carried out and data is collected. The fourth step is analyze the data. So here suppose you would have a set of numbers representing the keystroke errors for the people on changing work shifts, a set for the people in day shift and a set for the people for night shift. So data are analyzed using both descriptive and inferential statistics to see whether there are significant differences among these groups or not. So data analysis is also very important in that context. So the fifth step is you have to draw some conclusion. In that, based on the results of statistical analysis, the researchers draw some conclusion about the cause and effect relationships in the performed experiment. So at the simplest level, we can say that whether a hypothesis was supported or not. So it means to determine whether this particular hypothesis that we have drawn is supported or not. So in applied research, it is often important to go beyond the obvious. So whatever the results are coming, we have to draw our own conclusion, and it may be similar to what is existing, or it may not. If it is somewhat distinct what has been found, so it is a new finding, and then it is called as a research. So identifying underlying reasons, whether it may be coming in the psychological or physiological. So the development of useful principles and guidelines emerge out when this particular research is used to perform. So in that way, these are the 5 steps in conducting a particular experiment. So this may be useful for any experiment or in designing any particular thing. So with this, I am closing this lecture. I hope you will have found something distinct than what you know, and till then, till the next lecture continues. Goodbye for now. Thank you.